Welcome to Finchinfield. This is the home of the new Wethersfield Airfield Museum. The upstairs window you can see across the road. It's accessed by a door on the right and the archway that you can see just over the road. It overlooks Finchinfield Pond. This is where in World War II the 416th men would bring down their jeeps and their trucks and they'd wash them at the pond, and then they'd go to one of the 4 local pubs that were here at the time. The Fox you can see in the distance was one of the favourites. It's Sunday, the 1st of September 2024. We've been open for 3 weeks and we average about 20 visitors a day to 30 on the good days. Hopefully a nice day today, a Sunday, we might make 30 visitors. Hi everybody, welcome to the new Wethersfield Airfield Museum, and we hope to be here for at least the next 3 years while we figure out what's going to happen on the next phase of the museum, and if we get back onto the airfield, which we hope to do at some time in the future. Follow me. As we go in, we'll find there's a map of all the airfields that were on the east coast of England during World War II, and you'll find that in East Anglia alone there was 140 and 20 in Essex. Then we have a timeline. This is based on the timeline which Vernon had given the idea to for his project for the new museum when we go on to the airfield. And above that you can see the board from World War II that would have been up at the airfield for the 416th. Yeah, showing the different squadrons and the badges. So we'll follow the timeline. The timeline is 30 panels. Yeah, and we're still looking at the 416th here, missions, air crews, life on base, life off base, and then we move on to the RAF and the SAS, who came after the 416th, and the last mission of World War II, Operation Varsity. And then we talk about after World War II, and then we move on to these blue panels, which tell the story of RAF Wethersfield's Cold War history, and we move right around, and that will finish with the Red Horse that we have here, and we come on here to the modern day as we go up the stairs. As we approach the top of the stairs, we can see we have a large map of America. It's one of our favourite things here, and we ask all our American visitors to place an orange dot on the map. We'll have a look at that again a bit closer up. There are 8 states not represented with an orange dot: Alaska, Hawaii, North Dakota, Nebraska, Kansas, Nevada, and Alabama, and Mississippi. Every other state has got an orange dot of people that have visited. As we look down the staircase, we can see 3 prints of the paintings that were created by the local artist Chris French, one of them being the 416th mislaid print, which many of you will have seen. Chris also donated 5 copies of each print, which he hand signed for the museum to sell to help create funds. on the end of the stairwell you can see 4 giant sets of pilot's wings, navigator, bombardier and aircrew, and these are about 18 inches long, and they're made by the prop master for the program Masters of the Air, who I was in contact with, and he said it was something that he was planning to make. Really pleased with them. So now we're at the top of the stairs. We're about to go around the museum proper. I'm going to give you a quick tour of the museum, and then I'll come back to the 416th corner and you can see what we've done there. As we move away from the top of the stairs, we move round and we find one of the favourite places for people to stand is in front of this large aerial photograph of the airfield. Many of the people who are here from the Cold War are able to stand and pick out the buildings that they worked in and places that they went to, or the house that they lived in. So a lot of people congregate around this map, and beside it we also have a plan of the airfield and lots of pictures of some of the buildings that they're likely to talk about. Yeah, there's a seating area, and this is an area where they can watch a film. They can watch the 10-minute introduction film that Chelsea Peer, one of Dr. Williams's students, made for us, and we quite often run that in a loop along with the Frank Catchett's 22 minutes black and white of the 416th when they were here at Wethersfield. So many people remark on how clear and how good that picture is, and they actually enjoy just sitting there for nearly 30 minutes now between the two films to watch them. And because it's silent, it's quite nice in the museum. We move round, so there's a pattern to follow as you go around. We have some wingman news. We have about 40 wingman newspapers. These were from the Cold War, and a lot of information in these. People like to stand and have a look through, see if they can find an article about their relative. This is the 416th corner, and as I said, I'm going to come back to here a bit later. Okay. After the 416th, we move on to the RAF and the SAS who came in. And you can see here a little display about my grandfather, who was actually at Wethersfield in 1944 in October as the Lieutenant Quartermaster for the SAS. He was also the French liaison officer and translator between the SAS and the French SAS at that time. You can see a model of a Stirling aircraft that the 196 and 299 squadrons flew, flying SAS, SOE spies and supplies out to resistance groups out in the war area in Europe. You can see here the Bledsoe Medal that I was presented by Vernon, and a picture of Vernon and I there. And we also have a little tribute board to Vernon and to his uncle Harold Norris, and that's there because we actually have a model of Dry Gulcher in the museum in Vernon and Harold's honour as a tribute to them. As you move away from the end of World War II, we started with the sports teams. It's very small in here, so it's hard to fit everything in. So there's a little bit of everything, and we can keep turning it over and changing it. So here we have the sport, and we just received this the 2 days before we opened as a trophy from 1975 when the Wethersfield softball team won the UK Championships, and the Rick Friday, the recipient of that, sent it over in a box with that, and you'll see near the end a jacket with a red jacket with a big white W on it was the jacket that he wore that day as well. We move on from there and we got the music that was here, including in World War II. When I was over in Washington in 2017, one of the questions I had, a list of questions I asked the 5 guys that were still with us then, and one of them was, did they see any shows? And I wanted to know specifically if they'd been up to see the Bing Crosby show up at Ridgewell. None of them could remember that, but 2 or 3 of them did remember seeing Bob Hope at Wethersfield. And here we have some pictures of Bob Hope performing. And in the 1960s, Wethersfield was the place, and these are all famous people. You've got David Bowie, Lulu, the Small Faces, Freddie and the Dreamers. The Beatles were here before they were known as the Beatles. Many others, and lots of American stars who came over to perform for the Air Force at Wethersfield. A little bit about when the circus was here, and then Tom Barr's jacket. And this is what really started the museum, was Tom Barr's friend Bruce Simmer. Carol, his wife, asked for his ashes to be scattered on the airfield. They brought me out of retirement, and here we are, and I'm now doing what I'm doing. And the museum's been going for 10 years. Let's have a quick look at the Cold War period. We've got the 55th Squadron, the shooters, and we've got the 77th Squadron, the gamblers. And they flew F-86s and F-100s in the 1950s, the 1960s, right up to 1970, when they had to move because of Stansted Airport. And there's a local man that drew 2 pictures of those airplanes. Control tower, which is sadly gone now. And we move along towards the end of the Cold War period, when we had the Red Horse. And the Red Horse were here from 1979 till 1990. And we do some tributes to them, and we have some artifacts there. Up here I'm seeing Colonel Louis Bartrand. His son was here on Thursday, and I'll show you a bit more about that towards the end of the video. Now we move on to the air show period and our models. There are over 50 models in here. Every single model has been chosen because it was either at an air show at Wethersfield or that aircraft actually served at Wethersfield. And again, you can see an A-20 Havoc, which is actually La France Libre. I love to talk about this one because the numbers are wrong. As you can see, it's got E5H. That's the wrong squadron, so it gives me a lot to talk about. Plus the fact it's got D-Day stripes on it, and when it was La France Libre, it didn't have D-Day stripes on the top of the wing. One of my favourite stories to tell in here. And down there you can see the U2. The U2 was at Wethersfield, but it was painted grey because the British government wouldn't let them fly unmarked black aeroplanes over the United Kingdom. And we move around. There's quite a lot on air shows. This is one of our favourite cabinets for the air shows. And the top row is all the history of the 20th Fighter Wing that was here. Then the Red Arrows, who came to all the air shows from 1953 to 1988. And the bottom row are all the RAF planes that appeared at air shows. A famous one being the RAF Lightning. And the RAF Lightning and the Sabre of the American Air Force flew together. And here's one of my favourite paintings of that. Here we have a tribute to Colonel G.T. Morgan. George Morgan was base commander in 1985 and 86. In fact, he hosted the 416th family when they came for a visit to the airbase in 1986. Colonel Morgan's been to the museum twice, but sadly he passed away about 2 months ago. He's famous for being in the Guinness Book of Records as the co-pilot or the observer in the back of the SR-71 Blackbird aircraft in 1976, when they broke the airspeed record, and they still hold that record today. And Colonel Morgan signed some photographs for us, and So to finish up with the air show area, we have various programs from different air shows and information and photographs of aircraft that were there. These photographs, the black and white ones, are from the 1950s, from some of the people that have come back to visit us. We've got various patches. We don't have any 416th patches in there, other than the 9th Air Force one at the top. They're quite hard to come by, 416th patches. I have seen a couple on eBay, but a bit too expensive for us to purchase here. Yeah. We asked people from the Cold War to give us one of their name tags, but you'll see at the top, when Arlene and Roy came over last year for the 80th anniversary, we've now got the very top one person from World War II, and we've got Meredith Joy Huff up in the very top left-hand corner. You can see that. So we're represented there. Here we have our shopkeeper and his little shop. We have some key rings, at the moment only the 55th and 77th, but hopefully we'll have some 416th ones made in the future. And we got 2 patches sent by Roy Johnson, and he sent a big box of patches for us to sell. Vernon sent some DVDs, and Wethersfield at War sells very well here. And Chris French's prints, they're £30 here, and you can see the mislaid one over there. And we also sell the book that I wrote, and we've got a few leftover DVDs from Vernon's other visits to here. Very small section on the MOD police. You can see a picture of me when I was a policeman, and the police boats that I was on. And in the top picture, I'm actually in there. I'm third from the right hand side in that top picture. I zoom in, you can see me. It's when I was a very young man. I was about 22, I think, and away on a police exercise. This is a miscellaneous cabinet. Tells you there on the sign what's in it, and some various items there. And this is a special book for us, only one Ole. Commander Olsen died when his A-10 Warthog crashed with another one over the North Sea. When they tried to pull him out, the winch got snagged, and both him and the winchman were ditched into the sea again, and they both died at that time. This is a book that his widow Nanette wrote for him, and she'd initially given it to a friend of theirs in Braintree, who was a friend of the museum's. And when he passed away in 2021, Nanette came to visit the museum, and she passed it on. It's a wonderful book, a wonderful tribute to her late husband, right through his career. You can see him, he's on the wing standing there, and I just saw a picture of his famous Volvo sports car, which many people remember seeing driving around the roads here. When we move on from Colonel Olsen and Nanette, we move on into the last area here, the glider school, who were at RAF Wethersfield from 1982 to 2019. And we still get a lot of the cadets that were members of the glider school come up to the museum. We have about 20 to 30 visitors a day, Saturday and Sunday, so we can get 50 to 60 visitors over a weekend. When we go down this area, this is going to be a monthly feature area, and this month we're featuring Barry Webb. Barry was actually a pilot at Wethersfield in World War II, and he flew Stirling aircraft just after the 416th was left. He met Barry met Aileen, and they married just after World War II. And Aileen, who you'll hear about, was the driver of the coach that took the 416th to London, and you'll hear her daughter talking about that in Vernon's video that he made. They ran a restaurant in the village called the Old Nosebag. It's still here today. It's now called Winners, and it's where we went with Dave Andrews Jr. and Stephanie in 2013 when they came to visit. Barry was well known by every American that ever come here, and he was made an honorary member of virtually every squadron that ever served here and all the aircraft. A favourite story is Barry stopped flying when he was 90 because they wouldn't let him fly solo. So he retired from flying, and at the local airfield, Andrewsfield, they held a little party for him. So at the age of 90, Barry was not able to renew his pilot's licence, so he took up piano lessons. Barry, sadly, he passed away in 2018, but he was able to visit the museum a couple of times, and he did write down 10 pages of his memoirs from World War II for us, which are fantastic to read. And our favourite thing about this photograph of him, this was taken on D-Day, on VE Day, and on the back it's got hung over VE Day, end of the war. A lovely picture of the Stirling aircraft that Barry used to fly in World War II. And again, honorary member of the 20th Fighter Wing. Yeah. We have a selection of jackets that we have on display. We have so many still in storage, and you can see the latest one, the softball jacket. We're back at the map again, and some pictures around the map of visitors to the museum over the last 10 years. Pride of joy is Dave Andrews with his granddaughter Stephanie as they went up to Winners in this village. And in the background you can see the church tower in the background. Very similar view to you can see out the window here, which I'll show you shortly. And then we have the visitor's book and the flag that Nick Cartwright, one of Vernon's students, managed to get for us when he was an intern at Capitol Hill. And he actually did that on the 15th of October 2016, which was the day of your reunion, and it was dedicated by his congressman Lamar Smith, and it was dedicated to all the American men and women who served at Wethersfield between 1944 and 1990. So that's a very special item in the museum. A look at the 416th corner, and here we have the plaque that was on the wall of the chapel, eventually saved with the help of Steve Roy, Colin West from the parish council, and the American embassy in London. And it's arrived here and it's on display in the museum where it should rightly be. And hopefully one day we'll take it back onto the base. We have the 48 names of the men who lost their lives in the 416th while they were serving at Wethersfield. So all their names are there. And around them, some of Frank Hatchett's photographs with where we can, we'll put the names of the men that are in those photographs into it. On the actual table, you'll see that we have some stories. We have Bill Cramsey, we have some Dave Andrews stories there, and I picked out the Bakersfield Boys story for Tom Rickles, We've got Frank Catchett's team of photographers. Some of the community work they've done, holding parties for orphanages around, which is something that's well written about in the Essex County. Here we have the story of Wayne Downing and Norma, a great letter that Wayne Downing had written, which was lifted off Rick's wonderful 416th website, and a letter that Jim Adams sent home to his parents, which Uncle Chris and Auntie Mary brought when they came to visit. And then we have some other bits and pieces, and 3 books on feature here. Wayne's book, First of All, Rick and Ralph Conti's book, Attack Bombers, and a book that Stephanie sent me about Dave Andrews' visit to D-Day celebrations in 2013. So we have here. And above the plaque is the picture of one of the reunions with quite a few of the men from the 416th. They are remembered here. On this wall we have a collage that I made from some of the badges and buttons that Arlene brought that were her father's, and to tell the story of Miss Invasion and Captain Huff, and the secret button, which is something we discovered after the visit. One of the buttons that Arlene left with me, that was her father's, turned out to be a secret button which could be opened up. And he's taken the compass out and he'd put a picture of his mother and father inside there. I have that button, but it'll be passed back to Arlene when she next visits the museum, hopefully sometime in the future. A storyboard for the 416th archive, and also another display that was made from the badges and buttons that Arlene brought that were Captain Huff's. So that's on display here. Here you can see our centerpiece display, and probably the most memorable thing that people take away from the museum are these 3 models. Here we have Miss Lade in 1/32 scale. It's a big model, and it's been really well made, and it was gifted to me personally by Steve Thompson, who made the aircraft model, and Peter Bell, who owns the other models, has also put the same scale of famous helicopter that was at Wethersfield, the rescue and firefighting helicopters, the Carmen Husky, and our other famous airplane, the F-100. So it makes a great display, and it's a great tribute to the 416th to have such a special model in there. The t-shirts that you can see here, Colonel Bartran's son Lewis has the company that makes these over in the USA, and he visited a couple of days ago and he brought 65 with him for us to sell at the museum, and go a long way to help him with 3 or 4 months rent. We're doing quite well there, and in fact the largest and biggest donation that we had, a very, very generous donation, was from Bob Cramsey, and Bob Cramsey has also paid for 3 or 4 months rent in the museum. So we're now secured for at least a year and a half. We have another year and a half to find funding for, but we've only been in here for 3 months, and we've only been open for 3 weeks, so that's quite good. And this is my favourite area in the museum. Sally designed this and done the decor, and I was going to put displays here, but Sally said you really need to make a feature out of the window, which we did, and she made a seating area, and I love to sit here and look out the window and watch what's happening. Now I'm going to let you see this view. There's the pond outside the window of the museum, and that pond in World War II is where they would wash their jeeps and their trucks, and then they would go to the various pubs that were around before they went back up to the airbase. Now if I take you around and we have a look up here, there you can see the church, which was in the background of the photograph with Dave Andrews and Stephanie as they went to the restaurant. So it's a one. So I hope you have a really good reunion. I'd love to get back to Washington one day. It was one of the places I really enjoyed being in America, and it was a favorite trip for Sally when we were there. And I'm going to sit and have a coffee now and get ready to open up at 10 o'clock in the morning for our next lot of visitors. Have a great time, everybody, and I hope you enjoyed that little tour.